Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to the South Main Auto Channel. Got the 2021 Chevrolet. It's a Suburban. It's got the big 5.3, and it doesn't run. Some kind of fuel delivery issue. It died on a lady just going down the road. She's just driving down the road. She's having fun. There's kids in the car, and then it just shut off. Here you are, lady. Enjoy walking. And that's it. That's all I know. I do know for a fact it is a fuel delivery issue because I give her a little sniff of the secret sauce and she fires right up and then stalls out as soon as it runs out of juice. And that's how we drove it in. A little can of brake clean, a little ride under the hood, and here we are. We ain't pushing. So that's all I know. I assume probably a fuel pump because it's a gigantic fuel tank and it's more than half full, so I'm gonna assume the fuel pump's cracked out. But I've been wrong before. Let's not just assume, let's have a look. It's well out of warranty, being old like this, and it's got, oh, she's high mileage, 92,000 miles, so we're well out of warranty. I think I mentioned this in another video. I thought it was newer and lower mileage, but it's older and high mileage, so let's have a look. I have to imagine it's going to be littered full of codes. The battery was stone dead. They got a lot of crank time. So I imagine it's gonna be lots of code. So I had brought it in, sat here over the weekend. I put her on a 2 amp. Usually I set them to nuclear, but we were nice to this one. And it charged up fine over the weekend. So our battery is full now. We have the maintainer on it. As you can see, we're at a steady 13.9 volts. Looks like lots of codes, 36 codes so far. See if anything's useful. I imagine probably a lot of battery voltage and comm codes and all the stuff we're going to ignore. We're not going to ignore this one though. Fuel pump power control module, fuel pump speed signal incorrect. AKA it's not turning. Does that mean the pump's bad? I don't really know. I don't think so. And then the rest of these I don't really care about. Lots of comm with a whole bunch of stuff here. Battery voltage low, battery voltage low, low voltage, system low voltage. So most of this stuff is really irrelevant. You know, low voltage, which is to be expected. When your battery gets low on modern day vehicles and you attempt to crank it, stuff goes cray. So what are we worried about? ECM, that's all we were worried about. Start, stop, I don't know. We'll say it has it. We'll go to live data. I don't know if there is fuel pump data in here. I imagine there likely is. It probably has 20 different lists to choose from. This way we can see the low pressure side. A, B, C, D, E, F, fuel injector, fuel rail, pressure sensor learn, fuel system data high pressure, fuel system data low pressure. Wow! Chevrolet really breaks it down for us. Let's see. Fuel level sensor. Like I said, I know she's got a lot of gas in it. Fuel remaining in tank, 69%. This fuel is not volatile. No wonder it doesn't run. Desired pressure, fuel rail pressure. Okay, let's look at these two, because that's important. Fuel pressure sensor appears to work. Fuel pump command off. Oh, what the heck did we just select up here? Fuel rail desired, actual desired. Interesting. These are the ones I really want. I was thinking we would probably want somewhere around 60 psi. Let me just crank it up. Let's see what happens. I'm not going to be able to see this while it's cranking, so we'll go like this. Wow, 9,000. We want a max of 75. Okie dokie. Our data transmission just stopped. Went right to a crawl. Holy cow, usually these things are pretty fast. This one seems pretty slow. Let me crank it over. Let's see what happens. Stand by. Cranking, boys. It'll stop eventually. All right, so what did we learn? We learned that it sounds like it has a cylinder a little low on compression. We can hear that. So our desired and fuel rail pressure, this is the high pressure side. Our low pressure did not change. And our fuel pump was commanded on. So it appears that the fuel pump control module has control. Use my little claw hands, quote unquote. And nothing changed on our end. Yeehaw. Okay, so let's not get too overly complicated here. I don't know what, there's something going on with the old Alto. It's being freakishly slow. 129F. Okay. So this is pretty interesting, reading through factory service data, and it's kind of what I expected. They don't really usually get too in depth. You know, how does the three-phase fuel pump work? How does the three-phase motor work? All they have you do, if you read through all of this, is check the 3 wires coming out of the control module going to the fuel pump, and they have you check them for continuity. They don't have you check it for the ability to carry current, but as long as they have one little tiny strand of corrosion holding it together and has good continuity, they consider that good. And then they have you take those same wires and check essentially for short to power, short to ground, just using an ohm meter. So virtually useless testing. And then if that's all good, if all those tests come up good, they tell you to replace the fuel pump control module. And if the car still doesn't run, they tell you to replace the fuel pump. So it's just kind of the shotgun approach there, which I can't scoff at too much because I've never tested a 3-phase fuel pump. So shame on me for not knowing this. I guess before I ran into it, I did not realize that GM did this, that they ran a 3-phase fuel pump. So this is new to me. I don't know as if we should just go winging parts at it, but I also don't know some of its strategy. Obviously, when we try to turn it on, it only comes on briefly and then it shuts itself back off. Is it really coming on? So if we go back there to do any type of testing on, one of the 3 phases, is it really turning it on, or are we going to get a false positive? I don't know. Perhaps an old school method might be this unit. Try to turn it on and give her the old schmack. If it fires up, well, guess what? You got a bad pump, lady. And if it doesn't, well, you might need a couple parts. Old school it is. Let's see. But we know it only commands it briefly. Holy cow, it's cold. All right, let's see. Turn it back off. Pump should be somewhere right around this area. Well, I didn't see it kick on the scan tool here. You look in a different part of service data and they tell you it lives right here. You look in one part, they tell you it's under the spare tire. Yeehaw! Okay. She's right there. Left frame rail. Okie dokie. Oh. Ooh, I made this face. Ooh. She crusty. She crusty. Okay, let's put the spare tire back there real quick like a bunny. And we'll pull this cover off. I don't know if it's bolted to the cover. It is, so we'll leave that cover alone. She's looking pretty crusty. Lots of dirt and debris. So buttons on my underwear. We'll have to do a little visual inspection. I did take a mirror and looked up over top of the tank so we could see the fuel pump connector. It's up there pretty good. Doesn't look super easily accessible without dropping the drive shaft. So I'm hoping that we can make some tests from here. I wish I knew more for you guys, but sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it. And that's where we're at right now. Let's just go to Honest Town. It's caked up in there pretty good. It's like really good. I don't know if they're plastic or not. I don't know. Now that I can see more of it, it does look pretty nasty. Kind of want to blow that away. Before we disconnect it, why don't we just take, see if we can get these bolts out without snapping them off. Stick this down and just have a gander at it, because it may just be physically damaged, which would be great. It would really save our bacon, wouldn't it? Squirty squirt, a couple of those. Give that plenty of time to penetrate. All right, so that one's good and stripped out. Perfect. We'll try the other one. And that one is stripped out as well. Awesome. We do have a 10 mil, right? We do. They must have made those out of kitten fur. Let's see if we can smash a 3/8 on there. Hopefully get them out. They're in the box portion of the frame. They feel like they're just like a J-nut, J-clip type thing. Oh, we probably could heat the crap out of them. That might be the best option. Now you guys know that I hate General Motors as much as the next guy because of their level of stupidity and their cheap Chinese crap. The reason those nuts don't come off is because the nuts aren't supposed to come off. This is bolted from inside the frame. These nuts on the outside that, you know, sit here and you can stick a 10mm socket. The reason we can't chisel them off is because we can weld it on there. It's bolted through from the backside. Okay, so you'd say, this guy's an idiot. This guy right here, he's an idiot, obviously, stupid. Why didn't he just go on and unbolt it from the inside out? A, you got a fuel tank in the way, and B, there's no holes in the frame to stick a socket in. Want me to show you? Because I know you don't believe me. Let's have a look. First of all, we'll look at service data. See the little red screws from the inside out, and it will tell you. Let's come down here. Oh, that's where it lists our torque spec, you know, because you can get a torque wrench inside the frame. Idiots. Okay, here we go. Raise and support the vehicle. Disengage the harness. Fuel pump control bracket bolts to number 2. Remove. Inside out. Okay, yeah, no big deal. This is the front of the car. It's got an arrow. Once you get it out, take the nuts off the control module, and away you go. And here's those bolts. Here's the fuel pump control module bolts that go up in those keyways. Okay, let's just have a look inside the keyway. Let's see if we can get the camera up here for you, and just let you know that there is no open hole inside the frame. We'll look at both of them, or I'll try to get you over to both of them. See if we can get the camera in here. Just because I know we have trust issues. Let me see, I'll shine the light in that hole. Can we see in that one? You guys, there you go. You can see in there that there is no hole. Let me get you down here. This way here you can get a little bit of range. And then up through here, no holes as well. Sorry, I had a customer come in. Okay, so there, hole, no hole. Ooh, what friggers. Come on, General Motors. Gosh, so what the are you supposed to do? Well, I imagine you buy a new bracket, and we have an inverted Torx right there on the end, and you put it in, slip her in, and then you spin the bolt from the inside out. I'm gonna talk about the most cheap dog thing a guy's ever come up with. And then we put some 10mm nuts on the outside to make it look like it's a nut for the guy who doesn't read service data. And here we are. block tab removed. I just can't imagine having that level of stupidity when it comes to engineering a simple bracket. Who in the hell would think to run the bolts from the inside out in a blind hole with no access to them, and then actually put in service data to remove the bolts? You know, even if you were using an E5 inverted Torx, give me a break. You know, that'll never work in the Northeast. And even if this is just a, you know, a regional problem in the Salt Belt, I don't know if that would work in Florida. Let's be honest. Gosh, idiots. Like, clean. Stick my meter up here. I've got it on ohmage. I don't know, you guys probably can't see it. So we'll test our leads. Our leads are 0.0000.1. So we have zeros. It's all zeros now. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but it's all zeros. So my thought is just because it is a brushless motor, we should be able to check the 3 separate poles here with each other. I mean, we should have a very low resistance reading across all of them in relationship to each other, if my understanding of brushless DC motors is correct. So we have a gray, a yellow with gray, and a brown with white, and those are the 3 motor circuits. Where's that brown with white is in there? Okay, so I think it's that one. 1, 2, and 3. All right, let's see what we have. It's going to be a very low ohm reading. I wouldn't expect 0, but I would expect a very low reading, less than 1. So we have 0.3 ohms there. Let me check this other side. Point 0.3 ohms there. Let me check the windings the other way here. Let's see. There, 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 there. And this way. 0.3, 0.4. We've already gone that way. We did this one and this one. This one and this one, this one and this one. Yeah, I think that's all of them. Yeah, because there would be 4 different tests here. Let's see. Yeah, 0.4. And then we had 0.3 on the rest. 0.3. So that tells me, that tells me that the motor circuits are intact to the motor. Of course, we can check them for short to ground as well. If they were shorted to each other, I would expect 0. I would, close to it. So the motor could be seized and also give us the same thing. But when I was looking on scan data, when we turn it on, there is an amperage readout, and that just stayed at 0. I would assume if the motor was seized, even if it's only applying current to one pole, to get the motor started, I would assume we would have saw an amperage increase. I'm going to verify powers and grounds here. And if powers and grounds are good, and it appears that our motor circuits are good and the windings in the pump are good, I'm going to assume that our fuel pump module is junk. And that's the best I can do for you today. I made the call. Called to my local Chevy dealer, checked powers and grounds, everything was A-OK. So the best I can tell, we're going to need a motor unless our pump seized. You're going the wrong way there, ding dong. Or something of that nature. Something beyond my vague knowledge of DC brushless motors. And that brings me to a good point, good transition. There's an old saying that says, don't use a 3/8, it says use a 10 mil. But there's an old saying that says you don't know what you don't know. And that saying is from my good buddy Keith over at L1 Auto Diagnostic. And he says that it didn't strip it, dude. It's just all rusty. All right, so now He says that, and that's a good application here, is we don't know what we don't know. And we're not super familiar with DC brushless motors and automotive fuel pumps, but we're gonna be. And service data is really of no help because they just literally have you doing, useless ohm testing, which is a horrible test when it comes to checking wire integrity. Does it have its place? Sure. Did I use the correct ohm meter for checking the internal windings on a 3-phase motor? No. Did it hopefully work for us? Hopefully. Are we going to learn different testing procedures? We are. And perhaps there is no other testing procedure. Perhaps there's no way to check a 3-phase DC brushless motor without, with this style controller, without a known good motor. I don't know. So maybe, circuit integrity checks from here to the fuel pump is the only way. That I don't know. I do know if we're right and this controller works, which mind you, if I knew the price of it, I wouldn't do any testing at all because it's about the price of a relay. It's super cheap, wicked cheap, hella cheap, right from GM. And the guy at GM said he sells a ton of them. So there's that. So you can take a big fat guess, but also that's not going to help you. It'll help you if your car runs, but it's not going to help you if you want to know what tests can I do on an inoperative system. So if this works, it's going to be easy. Yeah, we'll throw a current clamp around those 3 phases and we'll see them all turning on and off. We'll get these nice little AC looking waves. And we can watch it control the motor speed, and if it has any feedback, we can see that. But that's all on a system that works. Okay, that's easy. Like that theory and operation is easy. You could pick that right out of, service info or some basic 3-phase motor testing procedures, for DC motors. And we'll be able to see that. And we can monitor other various things. But my question is when it doesn't work, how should we test it? When we can't just, power up the pump. You can't just jump for power to this pump because that ain't gonna work unless you can go really quick and you go across all the little phases and get it spinning. I don't know how quick you are. Or maybe you can get out your Arduino or Raspberry Pi and, do a little doop-de-doop programming and, make a controller and be like, oh yeah, your pump doesn't work. I don't know. So this is stuff that I'm gonna look into because there are questions that I have. I know this is probably the most fumbliest YouTube video on the planet. And this is hanging by the wiring harness. Sue me. Has an anti-strain zip tie on it, so settle down. We're gonna stick this back up there. I'm gonna spritz this with the fluid film. I'm sticking regular nuts and bolts back in it. We're gonna zippy zap them down. And you're saying, well, what about the next guy, Eric? Well, who cares? He'll take a torch or cut off wheel and cut them off and be in the same boat I was in. Because in the Northeast, you're not getting those out anyways. Is what it is. Before we stick it up there, we should see if it runs. It probably does. I hope it does. We're gonna say it does. Stand by. I get that one to grab a little more. That guy grabbed. There we go. We're happy with that. All right, we're back in business. If and it were me, in the future, if I was writing a note and leaving a note for future me, you could do it this way. You could do what we did. Take the torch, blow the head off it, Robert, your mother's brother, stick a nut and a bolt back through it. Or B, take the torch, blow the head off it, stick a nut, buy a new bracket, and then use the factory screws and a little inverted Torx to unscrew this screw back out, tighten it down. If you felt so inclined to do it that way. It depends. I know this guy doesn't go to the car show with this, so he's not going to have it on the ramp. He's not going to have the mirror under here, so he's not going to lose any deductions for this modification. We need to get a zip tie and zip tie it back to this bracket, however. I almost forgot about that. And just in case he changes his mind, takes the car show, we are going to use one of the factory looking ties of zipping We're gonna have to go this way with it though, so we can snug it up. Because you just don't know, you know, a guy could get later on in his life and decide, hey, I want to be a car show guy. There's that, we'll flush cutter. And a 45. There's that, okay. Fingers crossed it runs because we don't want to drain a tank that has 69% fuel capacity. Made right here in America. It smells like apple pie when you open the box. And you open the box in a little box. I didn't give you guys a big box opening, but there's the part number in case you need it. No programming required, as I stated earlier. We're gonna run back in. I got the key back on here. We're gonna kick her on. 3, 2, ta-da, ta-da. Oh, well, it doesn't stay on even when it does work. But we can see our actual versus desired is very similar. And we're about 100 short there, dead on there, but I think service data wanted a, you know, within 250 RPM variance. We have our fuel pump current. I did mention this earlier. So it looks like it peaks out about 12 amps at 100% duty cycle. Desired pressure, actual pressure. All of our circuit checks here as it turns on the different control circuits. Or what do we have? Oh, okay, short to ground, open. Control circuit high. Okay, all right, interesting. Pump motor circuit. Which motor control circuit is it looking at though? Fuel pump trim. Now I'm gonna have to look. I don't know if that means it's a 43% trim. You know, if it's one is its baseline, I don't know. There's a couple things that we don't know. But what we do need to know is if it runs, it should run because now it should run. Should have it all purged out. Oh, Chevy Thunder. Chevy Thunder. Replace battery and key. We have to push and hold the button here. Get it turned back on. Wow, it smells like Bill Cosby sauce out here. Woo! Alright folks, well I'm going to keep on keeping on. In the meantime, I'm going to do some looking. Like how can we diagnose three-phase brushless DC fuel pumps and determine is it the controller or is it the pump? Without just winging parts at it, you know, like we're advised to in service data. There's several good videos on the YouTubes. Dave Hobbs from Delphi, he does a nice video on testing DC brushless fuel pump motors. He put that video out about 4 years ago, and I believe Frank Massey of Pico also did a video on this. But I don't think either one of them, I'm gonna have to go back and revisit them, and I'm gonna look at other ones as well, because I don't think either one of them did testing on, you know, okay, the car doesn't run, you know, is it the pump, is it the controller? Because that's what we're gonna be, those are the problems we're gonna be proposed with. Because most stuff on a working pump, you know, we can see a lot in scan data. You know, we can see, you know, all the various circuits. Are they open? Are they short of the ground? And you know, things of that nature. Fuel pump performance. You know, these things can generate a host of codes that'll lead us into the right, you know, direction for what we're looking at there. But in our instance, where like, okay, we've got no fuel pressure, we know it's a delivery issue, it runs on the ether. What is it? You know, okay, you know, we've checked powers, grounds, and the fuel pump control module. Is it a matter of just checking the 3 poles on the electric motor? Is that a good enough test? Should we have the proper meter to do that correctly? And can we make a determination off from that? What if it's physically stuck? You know, that test will be irrelevant. I mean, I'll just tell you that right now. We could have good windings and good continuity and everything looks good there, but it could be physically not turning, okay? I would assume at that point, you know, we probably would see, you know, a high amperage draw on the scan tool when the pump's commanded on. We've learned on this GM that the pump, even though bidirectionally, when we command it on, it only stays on briefly for what, like 2 seconds maybe? And yeah, we could throw our scope and stuff on a known good. We could look at that. We could see, you know, how they're all timed, you know, 120 degrees apart, and you know, each one's kicking on, and you know, pulling high and pulling low, and you know, making an AC looking, you know, sine wave across your scope if the pump was working. If the pump's not functioning, what would we expect to see output on the controller? I don't know. And that's where we would have to gather some data. And that's something we're gonna have to do, because more than likely, we're gonna see these Chevrolets rolling in the future, and other manufacturers, like Toyota uses a 3-phase motor. I know Hyundai Kia uses a 3-phase motor. I've seen them on diagrams, but we've yet to have come across the bad one. Yeah, we can certainly throw parts at it all day long. Eventually you're gonna get it. You know, put a controller on it, put a fuel pump in it, put a wiring harness in it, put a fuse box in it, put an engine control module in it. You're eventually gonna get it. But we want to do some pinpoint testing, as you know. So thanks for sticking around to the fumbly bumbly of this video. Don't get on me too hard. You can, I don't care. You ride me around all day long, it doesn't matter. That's a lot of fun. That's what keeps it real. I had no idea that bracket was bolted on from the inside out, before you get after me on that. Had I known that, what would I have done? I would have took the torch and cut it off, because we're not spinning those bolts out backwards. You know, might have snapped onto them with vice grips, heated them up red hot, got them loose, took them out of their keyhole, and then cut them off anyways. I don't know. Hindsight's always 20/20, folks. Let me know, if you're an engineer, why would they have put those bolts through from the backside and then use the little tiny inverted torques to pull them from the inside out? Explain that to me. Help my little peon brain wrap my head around that. I would like to know. Genuinely would like to know. Yes, I still think it's a stupid design, but is there a method to that madness? Because it makes me crazy. And it makes me fill up the swear jar. So I'm out of money, so I gotta get to real work now. Gotta get some real work done. You guys work in that comment section. Insty, the Facebook. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. You can probably do it better in this case. Thanks for watching.